Hello again, my name is Kevin. You're watching Leathernet Prepper. What I'd like to talk to you about today is your secondary, your primary, your secondary, and your backup heat source. Your primary, of course, in most cases is going to be a heat pump like what we have here in the southeast. Some places still use wood, but mostly anymore it's going to be heat pump or natural gas here in Nashville. I don't even think you can get coal anywhere anymore. You may be able to, but we used to use coal as a kid to heat things, and fuel oil as well. So, but your secondary, in my case, I use a kerosene heater, and it will heat my entire house. We have a very small house. It's not a tiny house, but it is a small house. For myself and my wife, we don't really need much more, but it would be nice, but gotta live within your means, and I like being able to do what I want to do when I decide I want to do it. So yeah, we used to have a couple outbuildings that make things much nicer. So what I do, and this is me, you do you, I'm going to do me. What I like to do is every year about this time I will break out my, forgive the shaky camera, I break out my heater and I test it. I buy 5 gallons of kerosene to keep as a backup, and I have 3 other cans that I can use for kerosene if I need to go get some. Say we lose power and we're going to be without power for a longer period of time. And at the end of the season, if I haven't used it, I just burn through all of it, period. That way I don't have any left. So I go through and I clean my kerosene heater. I check my wick, and it's real easy to do this. I think I've already got a video of me stripping it apart and doing that, but if you'd like to see me do it, put in the comments, shoot me an email at xcooperx@protonmail.com. But one thing you want to remember when you do break out your kerosene heater, you want to let the wick absorb the kerosene. I don't remember what's recommended. I would just let it sit there for about 2 hours. That way it gets as much of that kerosene up in that wick. That way you're not just burning a dry wick. It makes the wick not last very long. We've had this wick, good lord, it's like 2006, 2007, and there's still plenty of wick left. A, we don't use it that much because we don't have to, but B, because I keep it trimmed up properly and I maintain it properly. So you want to get out your secondary heat source and make sure that it does work. A lot of people will take and have their heat pump checked in the summer and in the winter, fall, or spring and the fall. There's no difference in doing that with your secondary heat source. In my case, would be the kerosene heater. Now my backup is a little Mr. Buddy. I have a 2 burner. I think it's 1100 BTU, 1200 BTU. Either way, it'll heat a small room very nicely. So worst case scenario, if I was down to that, we would just put it, say, in the bedroom. That way the bedroom would stay a lot warmer. I've never really tested to see how warm it'll bring the room to if it got down cold, because that would mean I'd have to shut the heat pump off, let the house get down to normal temperature, which would require about 24 hours to make sure that everything came down to the right temperature. And I have to wait till it gets to a nice cold day in the 30s. We usually don't get much colder here for very long and very often here in the southeast. That's the beautiful part about living in the South. We have mild winters. We have quite warm summers, quite humid, and basically we have cold season or bug season and the no bug season. So keep that in mind if you decide you want to move to the South. But you can grow food year round. It's quite nice. So that's my backup. So I've got my primary, my heat pump, my secondary, my kerosene heater, and my backup, my Mr. Buddy. If it got down to the Mr. Buddy, something's really, really wrong. Now, I keep several extra empty containers just in case to go get more kerosene. I'm in good with the guy that sells kerosene up the street. We've got like 7 or 8 different places we can go, but I'm in real good with the guy that I get it in most places. And even if he was low, he would turn the pump on for me. I'm just pretty sure he would do that because we're pretty good. We're pretty tight. So I've never had any issues out of the gentleman, and he's always treated me fairly. So you want to keep that together. Um, you want to keep that in mind, not together. That's Timmy. So another thing I'd like to talk to you about is a secondary way to cook, and another way. Just you got your primary, which would be your gas stove or your electric stove. In my case, I have electric range. We don't have natural gas in our neighborhood. Otherwise, I would probably have it. But my secondary way would be to use my gas grill. It's got burners on the side, and it's just easy to set up. I've got extra propane, 5 or 6 20-pound cylinders. And I also have tons of those little 1-pound cylinders. I probably have 40 or 50 of those. It just got a little more cumbersome, so I started buying the bigger ones, and I bought, and I didn't know this, I want to thank J.J. Johnson for turning me onto this, a conversion hose that converts a 20-pound cylinder into a 1-pound cylinder so I can feed my smaller devices. So my secondary would be my gas grill, and my backups would be any of my Coleman stoves. Now I've got the propane, and I've got the they call it liquid, or they call it white gas. It's like a kerosene, but it's not kerosene. We always call it Coleman fuel. So I've got those. Now I've had Coleman fuel. I've got one container of Coleman fuel that I've had more than 20 years. And I just don't use it that much because I don't camp like I used to. My wife doesn't really like camping, so we just don't go out and do it like I want to. Otherwise, I'd go through one a year, maybe even more. But this stuff has never gone bad. It's been stored properly, and I pour it in. It works. I pour it in my lanterns because I do use my lanterns, but just not quite that often. I use my every year, 2-3 times a year. I'll take the lanterns. I'll fill all of them up and pump them all up, and then let them run till they completely die out, and then dump them out. So I check all of my stoves to make sure all of my stoves are going to work properly. That is another thing that's very important, to have another way to cook your food. Now, if it got down to it, I have a rocket stove that I built out of bricks. I've taken it apart. I don't keep it built because I just don't use it, but I could cook off of that if I wanted to. I actually did a video on how to put it together. I did this last year when I was still really injured, and I was doing it mostly with one hand, and you didn't see my walker, but I was using my walker while I was doing this, holding on for dear life, making sure that I was not going to fall because I hadn't been walking very long at the time. So I check all of my cooking sources, and then I have the other backup, which would be that you can just use twigs and sticks and things. By the way, if you want to see me put that together and actually use it, shoot me email xcooperx@protonmail.com, or comment in the section below, and I'll be more than happy to shoot the whole thing, building it, how I cut the bricks, and all that. And if it really got down to it, I have those small backpack stoves. I have those that the Nesbitt stoves. I have little things like that. Also, you can cook on sterno. Not very efficient, but it can be done. You can also cook off of your kerosene heater. Yes, you can, believe it or not. There's enough heat coming off of that thing that you can cook. So check all of your backups. Make sure they all work properly, because bugs like to get in there and build nests. Spiders do, and they will interfere with the way the fuel flows back through the rails. So anyhow, I hope you guys found this useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it, and remember, guns don't kill people, but Marines, yeah, they'll take care of that for you. Have a good one, guys.